Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. You know the drill. We're back at it again with the r/entitled_people Reddit stories. So let's just jump into it, shall we? My neighbors cut down our trees to improve their view. So this is not my story, but my parents'. However, they don't know the internet, so I will tell this story for them. So I live with my parents as I am only 14, and my parents decided they want a holiday house that they can work on and have to get away from life. When we moved in, we talked to the neighbor. On one side is nice neighbors, a lovely couple who has just moved into their first house, and on the other side are entitled neighbors, who rent their house to any people who want to have parties. When we look around the garden, we see 3 very tall trees, healthy trees, which have probably taken about 200 years to grow. As we're on a dip, these trees block the view of the house on the other side of the dip from seeing into my parents' bedroom and bathroom. Anyway, we have to go back to our other house so my mom can go back to work. When my mom gets a call from the nice neighbors, this is the conversation that ensued. Hey, you need to come back here right now. The entitled neighbors are on your property with chainsaws, and I don't know what they're planning to do. Wait, what? Can you stop them? I'm so sorry, but my ferry's about to leave, and I need to go to work. However, I can call the police if you want. Yes, please. I'll get my husband to get on the next ferry and get there as fast as he can. However, when the police got there, they were gone. I had just gotten out of school, and because my dad needed to pick me up, I went with him to see what had happened. When we get there, we see this view. The 3 trees were gone, and what was left are 3 very hacked at tree stumps and some glass. They had cut down our trees, and in the process, smashed part of the glass wall around the deck. Hearing chainsaws, we look over, and we see 3 mid-30 men cutting wood up, probably for firewood. This is when the entitlement really starts. Hey, why did you cut down our trees? Oh, hey, we were just looking over to your side and noticed that if these trees fell, they could really mess up your house. And being new neighbors, we thought we should do the neighborly thing of cutting them down for you. A sort of new neighbors helping each other out. What? Those trees were really healthy. Also, you trespassed and cut down our trees without our consent. We're calling the police on you. What the heck, dude? We improved your view and made sure the trees wouldn't hit your house. We helped you. Why would you call the police? Now, my dad hates being called dude. It's like swearing to him. So him getting angry and also being a lot stronger and bigger than them, he just walked inside before he got in trouble. Fast forward about a week, and we find out that the trees they cut down actually blocked their view of the sea. And with them cutting the trees down, the view was no longer obstructed and helped their rental. They have been fined a lot of money and have to do some community work as well as pay us enough money to put up a fence so that we don't have to see them anymore. The entitled neighbors have also started to rent out, so hopefully we don't ever have to see them again. Dang. I know OP's parents already got a little bit of justice, but they could totally sue the crap out of those neighbors. Tree law comes to mind. Destruction of property, perhaps? I really hope OP's parents do indeed sue the pants out of these neighbors, because I am absolutely raging on their behalf. I'll keep you guys updated on this one if any arise. How I gutted my HOA. Backstory. A few years ago, I bought my first house in a medium-sized neighborhood in a southern state. It had an HOA, but I actually picked the neighborhood because they had the lowest HOA dues in the city, the fewest rules, and the house was by far the nicest one I could afford in my budget. After a few weeks, I get a violation notice from the HOA telling me that I had 2 violations needing correction. 1, my lawn was not green enough, and 2, my trash cans were too close to my driveway. I was thoroughly confused about number 1, as it was February, in the middle of winter, so of course my lawn was dead. Like pretty much everyone else's. So I had assumed that either that was a mistake or an existing offense from the previous owner. As for the trash cans, I kept them on the side of my house, and I think when the HOA came by, my trash can stuck out past the sidewall approximately 1 foot. So how dare I? I shrugged them off and continued on. Come March, I get another notice, this time fining me for both violations. Each one cost me $100, and they wanted the money in 2 weeks. I was pissed. This has made no sense, and I was not about to let them just try and get money for BS violations. So I called the management company that worked with the board to get them appealed. The lady told me that I needed to appeal directly to the board, and that I could do so in the next annual meeting in a few days. So I of course showed up to the meeting. Prior to it starting, I met with a few homeowners and learned that they were all there for similar BS violations and were pissed off too. I then talked with one of the members on the board about the fine appeals process. He was an older guy in his 70s with short gray hair and a very worn and angry face. He asked what I was getting fined for, and when I told him, he just looked at me and said, "And you should get fined for that. Young people like you not taking care of their homes is the whole reason I got on this board. Learn to be a better property owner." This dude was the vice president of a volunteer board, telling me that I did not know how to take care of my house. What a sad life. The meeting then started, and the moderator mentioned that since this was an annual meeting, they would be voting on 3 out of 5 board members. They had some applications to the board, and we could also nominate someone today. That's when I had the idea of how I could get my revenge. When the election part of the meeting came, I nominated myself, gave some BS speech about HOAs aren't here to make money, and I wanted to serve my community. I wanted a landslide. And you could see the board members getting annoyed because they had scowled during my speech. After the meeting, I appealed my violations in a very elegant way, and they agreed to waive my trash can violation. As for the grass one, apparently since I had weeds growing in my yard, like tiny patch in the corner, they were still fining me because the weeds were turning yellow after I sprayed them. I was dumbfounded how they could get away with this, but they used a technicality in the bylaws that I had signed, so I ended up losing $100. Revenge. I will be honest, I had not expected this to work. After joining the board of 5, including myself, I was appointed secretary and had to help maintain meeting notes and review records. They specifically told me that I was not allowed to propose new policies, but I could vote on new ones proposed by the VP or president, which I later learned was actually a violation of their own rules. I voted every new rule down as long as I was in that position. I decided that my best course of action was to listen to how the others operated and look for an opening to get each of them off the board. The first opening came when the president, who literally looked like the most Karen woman ever, mentioned that she had wanted to fine for flowers that were not neutral in color. Basically, if a homeowner wanted to add something like turquoise flowers, we would fine them. She apparently had a neighbor that had flowers she didn't like, and she wanted to use the board to stop them. It was pretty insane. I then started my revenge on her. I started a message thread on Slack, since that's how we communicated, with other board members and asked what they had thought about her policy and reasoning. After far too much deliberation, 2 of them honestly thought this was okay. We agreed that the policy went too far. I then made a long post on the main channel telling her that her actions were not only wrong, but that she should be excused from the board. When she inevitably flipped out, I called a board meeting in the following week, and the other 4 board members voted her off for targeting a community member for personal gain. She gave a sob story about how the board was her life and that the neighborhood was like her child. But I didn't care. That's 1 down. I convinced one of my good neighbor friends to join a little later on to take her spot. The next members I targeted were the treasurer and director, as I wanted to save the vice president for last. They were actually pretty easy to get off the board because they were very easily swayed by public opinion. So I made a fake account on Nextdoor and waited until spring when most of the violations go out. When the letters went out, I looked for angry posts on Nextdoor. I then would comment on each one, giving them the first names of the 2 board members as the culprits, and told them to come to the next HOA meeting to appeal. It worked far better than I had expected. During the next meeting, over 50 people showed up and called out those by name. It was glorious. During the open session, community members grilled those 2 for their poor policies. even though they did not make most of them. The vice president, who was now president after the other one resigned, tried to defend them, but ultimately failed. The two members were so distraught after the meeting, and I told them that maybe they should resign, and they both did. That was two more down, both of which were replaced by a couple who came to the same meeting and wanted to get rid of these rules. Finally, the board had been flipped to 4 out of 5 people wanting to get rid of all these dumb rules. The president, however, was still the same old angry, hateful man. He tried to add more rules to increase violation revenue, and we voted him down every time. He started to get annoyed, but stayed steadfast to the board. I tried a lot of tactics to get him to leave, and not much swayed him. A few months went by, and we started with a new management company. They had a much better style of property management, and a website for looking through our community's records, as well as automated reports. When we got our first fines report, I hit pay dirt. The president's house appeared, and he owed around $10,000. Apparently he had open violations that he had never paid, and the other management company hid it from the board for him, since he had been on the board for close to 7 years. So I looked into remedies. Since his fines were over $3,000, our bylaws stated that a majority vote of the board could start an HOA foreclosure on the home, which I still think it's insane that HOAs can do that. So I got all the docs together and double checked with the new management company that the fines were correct, which they confirmed. I then called an emergency board session, presented the information, and 4 out of 5 of us voted to start the foreclosure process. The president got angry, cursed, and left the meeting early. We were informed a few days later that the president had resigned, paid his fine, and put his house up for sale. While I am sad that we couldn't force a foreclosure, at least he was off the board. I am currently president to this day, and I have reduced the fining policy to be a maximum of $400, and homeowners can appeal anytime they wish digitally. In addition, I have banned any grass fines until May, and trash can violations have been super relaxed. Moral of the story, never fine me $200, call me a stupid young kid, and expect to not lose your house. Not all heroes wear capes. OP was in it for the long haul, and I admire his tenacity. The FBI honestly needs to hire OP because damn, this man knows how to sneakily infiltrate. We don't really have HOAs like this where I live, so reading about this made-up power that HOAs have gets me fuming. I feel for you guys, and don't blame the lot of you for strictly buying homes that aren't in HOA neighborhoods. It's ridiculous that you even need to be conscious of that. Your neighbors with absolutely zero valid authority should not be able to cite you. So I say, outlaw HOAs, or at least be severely limited in what they can and cannot do. I'll start a picket line. I'll bring snacks to the protest. Ooh, coffee. I'll bring coffee. But anyway, that is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed this Entitled People petty revenge story. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!